Hey guys, today we watched It Follows. Aidan, what's the plot of It Follows?
A girl has sex with her boyfriend, which causes a monster to start following her around.
It's not really your boyfriend because actually the guy's Slim Shady. He was
Okay.
actually just Slim Shady. But yeah. Alright, Aidan, what did you think of It Follows?
It was bad. They tried to do a kind of subtle horror, and they didn't have any jump scares, thankfully, but it didn't really work out, in my opinion. The movie was dull. It felt a little long, but I don't imagine it was much more than an hour and a half.
It was about 2, actually, surprisingly.
The main character was unlikable, kind of. She didn't really have a personality. Most of the characters didn't have personalities. The monster, or whatever it is, alien, monster, slasher, ghost thing, was
Not a slash.
lazy, because in scenes where it would be too difficult to have it do something, they were like, oh, it's invisible because only she can see it. And then in other scenes it'd just be a person, so it got kind of confusing, and it was bad. The movie. I mean.
Oh, you were gonna let me speak?
I was queuing out to you.
Alright, well, finally, after Aidan let me speak, basically, some context on why we saw this movie is it had 75%, and it sounded kind of neat. I thought it would be maybe like an alien movie, like It Follows, like a take on, like an R-rated take on a lot of those It movies from back in the 50s, if you know what I'm saying, those atomic age movies. But that wasn't the case at all. It just seemed like an extremely lazy horror movie. Right off the bat, this is a spoiler, but a total of 2 people died the whole time. Greasy Italione, who just is the most annoying looking character. He looks like he's on meth, and basically the plot is this girl decides to have sex with multiple men, and this monster follows him around like a sexually transmitted disease. And the thing I really disliked about this movie is they really pushed on that message, and then it's like I guess it was just supposed to be like a metaphor for AIDS, because like you had the Slim Shady get it, and then Greasy Italione's like, I'll take it from you and I'll live with it, and then he lives like 10 minutes and then dies, and then she keeps spreading it, but she's supposed to be like a good person because she's a girl. And then like basically the whole time the girl acts like a slut, and like Aidan said, the monster was very lazy in that movie, because they would just film it and there would be no one there. It would just either be a person that was unrelated that they were hallucinating, and they never really explained how that worked, like what that thing was actually supposed to do, like why that person was an old lady in one scene, why it was a kid. Was it just supposed to spook me out because it changed? Couldn't it just be one person? Sometimes it was a really tall dude, but overall I couldn't understand the motives of the ghost. She just kind of gets the ghost from having sex with the dude, so obviously it's a metaphor for AIDS. Could you not? And then sometimes it was invisible for seemingly no reason. We didn't understand why it was changing from a person to this invisible thing over and over again, and it got annoying and monotonous because I couldn't tell what I was supposed to be invested in. Aidan calling the slasher earlier, I would say, is inaccurate, because we didn't really even have a monster in this movie. We had a cheesy metaphor for sexually transmitted diseases, and it was retarded. It's like, I didn't understand what message it was trying to get off. Were we not supposed to like this girl? Was she a hero for living with AIDS, or whatever this was supposed to be? Like, and I understand to an extent, but then like there was a lot of plot points too they never resolved. Like Slim Shady disappears. Maybe I was taking a shit or something, but
No,
he disappeared. He never came back. He didn't die or didn't live. We didn't see what happened to him, and she's just passing it around, and she's like, it'll be better if I pass it. And there were all these rules, like, if you have sex with someone, then it'll go away from you. And then it's like, okay, so you're going to try and pass it. And then it'll be something deep in her brain, like, should I pass this on and get rid of it for myself? Or should I live with it? Does someone else deserve to get it? But then she has sex with the one dude who's like, I'll take it from you. And then it's like, no, you just keep it anyways. And then it's like, so what's the message here? What's the point you're trying to get at? Because obviously this wasn't supposed to be a horror movie. If it was a horror movie, they would have had people get killed. They would have had things happen in the movie, you know? It would have ended up like a horror movie where shit happens. However, nothing happens, so I couldn't call it a horror movie. I could call it a shitty, preachy message for STDs that made no sense because I couldn't understand what they were preaching. That's what I thought of this movie.
Well, I would like to touch on a few more things, I guess. Another plot they didn't resolve was at the start of the movie we see a girl get killed. And I assume that the whole reason she was there was so that someone would get killed before the last 10 minutes of the movie. Because nothing happened in this movie for almost the entire running length. And then, shit, I'm already forgetting this goddamn movie.
Well,
oh, the climax I wanted to talk about. The pool scene. What?
I was just going to touch a little more on your point about the open. Okay, so basically the opening girl, she died, and obviously that was to add some action, but she is one of 2 kills in this movie, which is a problem with a horror movie. I'm not saying everyone has to die, but I didn't understand why everyone had to live. Because we weren't supposed to be invested in this character, just reminding you after the fact, hey, this was a horror movie, not just a mess. And the other thing I want to... Actually, yeah, you can go from what you were touching on.
The climax of the movie is stupid. Because there's a scene on the beach, and the girl learns how to fire a gun about 2 seconds earlier, and then they shoot the thing in the head, and it lives. And you're like, okay, so it's invincible. So then their plan is to lure it into the pool and drop toasters in the pool to electrocute it. And then in the end, they don't end up doing that, and they shoot it in the head, and it dies. But then it doesn't really die.
No, I think it really died. I think what they're saying is love is AIDS or something like that.
No, because at the end they were being followed by the thing again.
No,
there was a guy walking behind them.
But it wasn't trying to kill him, so I think it was supposed to be some preachy-ass metaphor, because it was like at film festivals. I mean, I guess that's just up to interpretation or something, or the movie's garbage and who cares. But the other thing I want to point out is, yeah, like Aidan was saying, there's a lot of like these scenes where things were just unresolved. But I think one of the things that bothered me the most, and I actually have 2 things that really bothered me in this movie that I want to touch on briefly. One thing is, there would be times that shots would be completely unnecessary. Like there was this weird, like, 3 times she gets in the car after she gets followed. She's, like, traumatized. But there are, like, 3 shots of her in the car crying. Like, 3 separate shots. Like, they're the same angle and everything, but they jump separately. Obviously, they're in different time periods or whatever. Okay, that's fine. Sort of. But then it just jumps to her sitting on her car, and then it jumps to her going to sleep. Why they had to include those 2 shots made no sense to me, and it was weird. And then right after the car sleeping scene, she comes back to her house. You see her swim. She goes in the water and swims, and then it cuts to her waking up the next day.
Oh yeah.
But it's really weird. It's like they don't really give you a weird, like, they don't give you any sense like it was supposed to be the next day during the second time, but they give you an over sense of time in other scenes. It's like some things needed more shots, and some things were just like, we don't need 20 shots explaining this. We get that she goes to sleep on her car somewhere else because she's traumatized. It's not something we have to see.
That swimming scene, she very specifically looks at 3 guys on a boat, and I'll be honest, I thought her plan was to get gangbanged and get rid of the monster. It sounds fucked up, but she sees these guys on a boat. She takes off her clothes and gets in the water, and I'm like, oh, she's swimming over to him. She's going to get rid of the monster that way. And then cuts to a different time, and I'm like, what happened in that scene?
I don't think I think she just went swimming.
Yeah, I think that's
what they were getting at. But like again, like you lead in, like they could have just showed her sleeping on the car, and then like the scene where she wakes up, the scene where she swims, and the 3 scenes that get to her being traumatized in the car are all unnecessary. Here's what they should have done. They should have had her get chased. She goes into her car, she cries, and then and do it in one cut, not like a 3-minute cut of her switching spots as she's crying. Like I don't need to see a montage of her driving down the fucking highway crying. And then you jump to that for like a second, and then you jump to her waking up on the car. Or you could have jumped to her getting in the car, pulling out, and then maybe she sleeps on the car and then wakes up. But there were so many shots there that were just unnecessary. And then even the shot where she wakes up, and then it jumps over to them going to the beach or something. I don't remember what it jumped to, but it was another useless shot where they woke up and nothing happened. There were so many useless shots in here to make it look artsy or something. I don't know. Because they were all fairly artsy shots. Like we're supposed to be getting into her psyche or something, but it ended up being stupid as fuck.
So, Connor.
Actually, I was going to let you speak, but I have one more thing to talk about. I just didn't want to hog it.
Okay, go for it.
I think we need to address the music. What you could loosely call music. They didn't have a genre of music. What they did was they had electrical sounds, and they annoyingly, were scratching on their thing. I don't know. They didn't have a real music director. It was just it wasn't even techno. It was like they used the equipment you need to make techno, and they literally just did random shit with it. It was and it was like horror sounds. But
then they would put it in weird places too. Like she gets dropped off by her first boyfriend, Slim Shady. He drops her off in his car, and they play this music. It's like, and then the scene ends.
Yeah, it's just unnecessary time.
And they kept cutting to the neighbors across the street who were always smoking weed, and they're like, "That family's so messed up, man." And I'm like, "Why is this in here? Who are these?"
Director's like, "I want to be in my movie, man. I want to be in the movie."
Okay, Connor. Favorite and least favorite parts.
Well, I'll go with my favorite first. I guess my favorite parts were the scenes where she was hard dry humping Slim Shady and Greasy Italione and fucking Pee Wee Herman. Because there were a lot of weird dry humping scenes because the main character didn't want to get undressed for the
sex
movie.
with clothes on.
Yeah, they always dry humped and it was really awkward and weird. And my least favorite part was everything that had to do with the music, the monster thing. I wouldn't even call it a monster because it doesn't even really kill anyone. Just the STD metaphor, embodied metaphor for STDs.
Yeah.
And then how the movie was shot. I hated a lot of parts of this movie, and there were very few things I found enjoyable in this movie. It also felt a lot longer than its length, similar to Home.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be rude.
No,
it's
your turn.
Remember if you had said it.
No, I said pro and con.
The part I liked the most about this movie was making fun of the stupid shit, which was the fully closed sex scene that happened
Dry
3 times, dry humping, which spreads AIDS.
Slim Shady.
And Slim Shady, and the girl who had the huge tooth gap that looked like Mr. T.
She would have been fine looking if it wasn't for the tooth gap.
My least favorite part of this movie, well, my the part I hated the most in the movie was that it was a lazy metaphor for AIDS. The other things I hated about the movie were the characters, the music, the directing, the acting was absolutely terrible. The monster, the entire climax with the toasters in the pool. I hated pretty much everything about the movie. Actually, it might be the worst movie. No, not
the worst movie I've ever seen.
I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna say the worst movie we've reviewed on this channel.
Yeah.
And
I would say yeah.
Would you recommend this to anybody ever?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. It's not like Home. Even I guess I could give I guess if you have a kid that might want to see the movie, but you can say that with any kids movie. This one doesn't have an audience. I don't understand what it's getting at. Are STDs good or bad? Are women supposed to be strong? Are we actually supposed to? Is this actually supposed to be a horror movie, or did they just try and disguise this dry hump light porn preachy thing for horror? I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't get what it was getting at, and since I don't understand not only on a horror level what it was getting at, especially not on a horror level what it was getting at, but since I didn't understand what it meant in almost any way, I couldn't suggest it to anyone because there's no one who would. I don't know. I guess if you like cheesy Oscar bait STD horror movies, then go for it. It's an insult to any horror fan. And actually, another thing I want to point out, and I'm bad. We're always bad at this, but they showed a lot of footage of like these 50s cheesy horror movies. A lot of like those movies that I was referencing earlier, those It Came from Another World type movies, you know, like those cheesy, and especially when you could see those on the TV, I'm like, damn, this is gonna be like one of those, but it's gonna be like a really violent version. Especially, I figured the name was a nod to the old movies, and I think it was based on the fact that they had these older sci-fi horror movies in the background at a lot of points, but it didn't reference those at all. In fact, it kind of just took the name, and that was probably the most misleading part, because I thought that's what they were going for, and I thought that's why I got such good grades, is because I thought it would be like those stories turned upside down and made for the modern audience. But no, I was wrong.
You know what's a good movie about a shape-shifting monster?
Paranormal Activity.
I was gonna say John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh. I didn't think this monster really shapeshifted. I thought it was just part of the imagination. I don't know what it was supposed to be. I don't know. The invisible marvel.
If you want to watch a movie, watch John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah, just watch John Carpenter's The Thing. Fuck this movie. And Furious 7. That's my favorite movie.